It's mid-year, and the second half is already loaded with big expenses quietly waiting to snap. Back to school, holidays, renewals. If that's where you are right now, subscribe. This show is built for exactly this. This is Master Your Money. Welcome to Master Your Money, budgeting, saving, and debt-free living. I'm your host, Nate Tanner, where we use the Triggator Triangle to help you win with money. You know that feeling when summer is humming along, life is good, the kids are happy, and then somewhere around late July, it hits you. Back to school, Halloween, Thanksgiving travel, Christmas gifts, the Costco membership renewal, the car registration, all of it suddenly looming on the horizon like a wave you didn't see building. Here's the thing though. None of this is a surprise. Every single one of those expenses was already on the calendar. They're predictable. They're annual. They have a pattern. And in the Triggator world, they have a name. They're alligators. Alligator expenses are big, non-monthly costs that sit quietly below the surface all year long, just waiting. They're not emergencies. They're not bad luck. They're scheduled. The only real question is whether you've been feeding the Alligator Fund or whether you're about to get snapped. That's exactly why this episode exists right now, in the middle of summer, because this is your window. Think of today as your financial halftime show. The first half of 2026, it's in the books. The second half is coming fast. And right now, right here, you have just enough runway to look ahead, see what's lurking, and make smart adjustments before the gators get hungry. According to a 2023 bank rate survey, nearly 57% of Americans say that they couldn't cover an unexpected expense of $1,000 or more without going into debt. But here's what makes that stat so maddening. Most of those so-called unexpected expenses, totally expected. Back to school happens every August. The holidays show up every November and December, right on schedule. Car registrations renew on the exact same day every year. We know they're coming. We just haven't planned for them. Today, we're going to change that. We'll audit your Alligator Fund and run the real math on what's on track and what needs a quick adjustment. Then we're going to pull out the crystal ball. And spoiler, everything in the second half of 2026 already happened in the second half of 2025. So this is easier than it sounds. And then we're going to make sure you walk away with the motivation and the tools to actually go do something about it. This is Gator season, and today you're the one with the plan. Let's get into it. And if you want a simple framework to put everything we covered today into action, including how to set up and manage your Alligator Fund right away, I've got a free resource for you. The Money Made Manageable ebook at Triggator.com/ebook. Completely free. Grab it after the show. Now picture this. It's a calm summer afternoon. Your paycheck spending plan is humming along. The bills are paid, and you feel pretty good about where you stand. Then your kid reminds you that school starts in just 6 weeks. Your car registration renewal lands in your inbox, and your spouse casually mentions that the holidays are only 5 months away. Suddenly, the calm afternoon has a soundtrack, and it's the Jaws theme. But here's the good news. Unlike the shark, alligator expenses aren't lurking in secret. They're on the calendar. They're predictable. And with a little math and a mid-year checkup, you can know exactly where you stand and make any adjustment that you need before a single gator gets hungry. That's what we're doing right now, the Alligator Audit. Let's start with a quick definition for anyone who's new to the Triggator world. An alligator expense is any large predictable cost that doesn't show up on a regular monthly basis. The key word here is non-monthly, not annual. These gators come in all different sizes and feeding schedules. Some are annual, back to school shopping, holiday gifts, car registration, Costco or Amazon membership renewals, property taxes, annual insurance premiums. Some are semi-annual, maybe a big home maintenance project that happens twice a year, or a professional service that you pay for in the spring and fall. Some are quarterly, Oil changes are a perfect example. Every 3 months or so, your car is going to need one. And while it's not a huge number, it's not in your monthly bills either. And it has a funny way of showing up at inconvenient times. And some land on an irregular but predictable schedule. Lawn fertilization, pest control, weed treatments, those might come up every 6 to 8 weeks from spring to fall. And they add up fast. The thing all these things have in common is that they're not emergencies. They're not bad luck. They are scheduled. And that's exactly what makes them manageable if you plan for them. The solution is the Alligator Fund, a dedicated savings category where you set aside a small amount every paycheck specifically to cover each of these expenses when they arrive. Instead of scrambling in August for back-to-school money, you've been quietly building it a little at a time. And when the day comes, the money is just there, waiting, fed and happy. Here's the thing about alligator savings that makes the Triggator approach so powerful. The earlier you start saving for that gator, the smaller the per paycheck contribution needs to be. Ideally, you'd start saving for next August's back-to-school fund in August of this year, right after you pay it. Spread that $350 goal across the entire year of paychecks, and it's almost invisible. But even if you're still starting later than ideal, even if January was your starting gun instead of last August, you've still got more runway than you think, which brings us to the math. Okay, so it's math time, and I promise, stick with me here. This is actually deeply satisfying once you see it work. Here is the formula for every alligator in your fund. The projected total equals the remaining paychecks times the per paycheck contribution plus the current balance. Then you compare that projected total to your goal. At or above the goal, you're on track. Short, you adjust. That's the whole audit. Let's walk through a real example. You have a back-to-school fund with a goal of $350, and it's due by August 14th. You've got 3 more paychecks between now and then. You started contributing last year and set your per paycheck amount at $13.47. As of today, you've got $309.81 saved. So, 3 paychecks times $13.47 equals $40.41 incoming. Add that to your $309 already saved, you're over the $350 mark by 22 cents. You're on track. You can basically already smell the new backpack. Now, I'll admit, multiplying $13.47 by 3 isn't exactly appointment television. But the feeling when you see $350 sitting there and your goal was $350, that is a specific, personal, deeply satisfying kind of calm. That's the whole payoff with running this audit. But what if the math doesn't land where you need it? Same example, $350 goal, 3 paychecks left, but this time instead of $309 saved, you only have $250 in the fund. 3 paychecks times $13.47 still gives you $40.41 coming in. $250 plus $40.41, that's $290.41. You're $59 plus short. The gator is hungry. Here's where some people feel a flash of anxiety. Don't. This is exactly what the mid-year audit is designed to surface, while you still have runway to fix it. The adjustment is simple. Take the remaining gap, $350 minus $250, that's $100 still needed, and divide it by your remaining paychecks of 3. That's $33.34 per paycheck for the next 3 paychecks instead of your $13.47. Run it. 3 times $33.34, that's $100. Add that to your $250 already saved, $350 right on target. You didn't fail. You caught it early. There's a massive difference between those two things, and right now, you're the one that caught it. Here's the thing I really want you to feel, not just hear. The reason we're doing this audit right now in the middle of summer is because of what time does when you use it well. Let's say you run your audit today and you discover that your Christmas fund is short by $300. It's early July. Depending on your paycheck schedule, you might have 10, 11, maybe 12 paychecks between now and when you need that money. Spreading that $300 across 12 paychecks, that's $25 per paycheck. That is totally manageable. That might not even require much reshuffling at all. Now imagine you discovered that same $300 gap in November, 2 paychecks left. Suddenly you're scrambling for $150 per check, or worse, reaching for a credit card just to get through the holidays. Same problem, completely different pressure. According to a 2024 Lending Tree survey, more than 1 in 3 Americans planned to go into debt to cover holiday spending last year. The average amount? Over $1,000. That's not a spending problem for most families. That's a timing problem. The same dollars saved earlier in the year would have covered that exact same holiday without a single dollar of debt. That's the power of acting now. The bump you make in July is quiet. The panic in November is loud. You are choosing quiet. You know the movie Moneyball? Brad Pitt plays Billy Beane, an Oakland A's general manager who used data and analytics to build a winning team on a shoestring budget. The entire premise is that everyone else is making decisions based on a gut feeling and tradition, but Billy Beane was running the numbers instead. Your Alligator Audit is your Moneyball moment. While everyone else is winging the second half of 2026 on vibes and good intentions, you're running on projections, catching the gaps, and making adjustments before the season is lost. You're not guessing, you're managing. And in personal finance, just like baseball, the team that manages the numbers wins. So how do you run this audit across all your alligators? Not just one. Here's the process. Step 1, list every alligator expense you're currently saving for: quarterly oil changes, bi-monthly lawn treatments, semi-annual insurance premiums, back to school, Halloween, Thanksgiving travel, Christmas gifts, annual memberships, car registration, all of them on one list. Step 2, for each one, put the current balance, your paycheck contribution, your goal amount, and the number of paychecks until it's due. Step 3, run the formula: remaining paychecks times the contribution plus the current balance. It will equal your projected total. Compare that to the goal. Step 4, for anything underfunded, calculate your adjusted contribution. That's your goal minus the current balance divided by remaining paychecks. Step 5, update your paycheck spending plan accordingly and move on with your life, knowing your gators are fed. According to the National Retail Federation's 2024 Back to School Consumer Survey, families with school-age children plan to spend an average of $874 per household on back-to-school items, making it one of the largest consumer spending events of the year, second only to the winter holidays. That's not a small gator. That's a full-grown 8-foot alligator, and it shows up at the same exact time every year. If any of this hit close to home, if you've been hoping the numbers would kind of sort themselves out without actually running them, this is exactly what we talk about every week. Subscribe on YouTube or hit follow on your podcast app so that you never miss an episode like this one. The Money Made Manageable ebook at Triggator.com/ebook walks you through setting up your Alligator Fund from scratch, and it's free. It's worth grabbing before your next paycheck. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Nate, I love this concept, but I did not get into personal finance because I enjoy doing math on a spreadsheet. That's completely fair. The Triggator web app tracks every one of your Alligator Fund contributions. It shows you real-time progress towards your goal, and it automatically recalculates your per paycheck amount the moment you fall behind. No spreadsheets, no formula, no guesswork. Let the web app do the math so that you can just make the moves. We offer a free 7-day trial at Triggator.com with no card required. Now that you know exactly where the current gators stand, the next question is, what else is coming that I haven't accounted for yet? Here's the good news. You don't need a crystal ball for this one. You just need to remember what last summer looked like. Let's talk about that. So here's the question. What does the second half of 2026 look like for your family? If your first instinct is, I don't know yet, I want to gently push back on that because here's the truth. You already lived most of it. Not this year, but close enough. The second half of 2026 is going to look a lot like the second half of 2025. Same calendar, same rhythms, same gators. And that means you don't need a crystal ball. You need a memory and about 15 minutes. Let's do this together. This is one of the most freeing ideas in all of personal finance, and it doesn't get talked about enough. Most people treat future expenses like unknowns, things that they deal with when they arrive, but the calendar doesn't lie. Back to school happens every August. Halloween is always October 31st. Thanksgiving travel is always late November. Christmas is always December 25th. And it has never, not once, moved. The car registration renewal, it lands in the same month that it has. The Costco membership expires exactly 12 months after you last did it. None of this requires prediction. It just requires recollection. So here's the exercise. Mentally walk through last July, August, September, October, November, and December. What did you spend your money on that wasn't in your regular monthly bills? What caught you off guard? What did you handle, but maybe with more stress than it deserved? Those moments, those are your alligators, and they are already scheduled for an encore performance in H2 of 2026. Let's walk through the calendar together and knock some of them loose. Think of this as a prompt list, not an exhaustive one, but it's enough to get your gators on paper. July to August, back to school is a big one. Clothes, shoes, supplies, backpacks, maybe registration fees or school activity dues. If your kids are in sports, fall season tryouts and equipment often hit right here too. And don't forget oil changes. They're on a quarterly schedule. One of them is probably due right about now. September to October, Halloween, costumes, decorations, candy, it all adds up faster than you think, especially if you've got kids who take the costume selection very seriously. Lawn care and pest control treatments often continue through the fall. Some families have quarterly pest control contracts that bill in this window. November, Thanksgiving travel or hosting costs. If you're the house where everyone gathers, groceries for that meal are a real number. If you're traveling, flights and gas, they aren't free. This is also when a lot of annual subscriptions and software renewals tend to cluster, and that's not by accident. Black Friday deals on streaming services, software, and membership programs are everywhere in November. And last year's great deal just became this year's renewal notice, showing up at the worst possible time. It's worth scrolling through your email from last November and checking what auto-renewed without much fanfare. December, we've got holidays, gifts, decorations, holiday events, school concerts, maybe a family photo session. For a lot of families, this is the biggest single alligator of the year. And it's the one that catches most people off guard, which is almost impressive given that it has been on December 25th for as long as anyone can remember. According to the National Retail Federation's 2024 Holiday Spending Report, the average Americans plan to spend $902 on gifts, decorations, and other holiday-related items. That's nearly $1,000 showing up in a month that already has a full set of regular bills attached to it. Starting to save in July instead of December isn't a nice to have. It's the difference between a season you enjoy and a season you survive. Here's something the calendar can't tell you on its own, and it's worth pausing on if you have kids. Some gators got bigger since last year, not because of inflation, but because your people grew up. A child crossing from 12 to 13 isn't just a birthday, it's a gear shift. The costume that worked last year probably won't fly this year. The clothes that fit in August of 2025 definitely don't fit in August of 2026. The gift list looks different. The shoe size has changed. Maybe the activity has changed entirely. Last year it was recreational soccer. This year it's competitive travel ball with a whole new equipment list. Take a few minutes and think about whether any of your Gator goal amounts need to be adjusted upward for this year. Did someone hit a milestone that changes what the holidays look like for your family? Did a kid age into a category that costs more or differently? These aren't reasons to panic. They're just reasons to update the number before you start saving towards the wrong target. If that's resonating, if you've got kids changing fast and a budget that hasn't quite kept up, the Money Made Manageable ebook at Triggator.com/ebook walks through exactly how to build and adjust these kinds of savings goals as your family grows. Free, no strings, worth grabbing before your next paycheck. Stay with me for a second. The Price is Right. The whole premise of the show is that contestants win by knowing what things actually cost. Not guessing, not hoping, knowing. And the people who win big aren't necessarily the luckiest. They're the ones who paid attention. They did their homework. They know that dinette set runs about $1,200. They know that the trip to Cancun runs around $4,500. Your crystal ball review is your Price is Right moment. You're not guessing what H2 is going to cost for your family. You are doing your homework. You're looking back at last year, adjusting for what's changed, and writing down real numbers. That's how you spin the wheel with confidence instead of crossing your fingers. So you've got your list, you know what's coming. Now let's build out the Gators that don't exist yet, or reset the ones that need a fresh goal. The process is simple and it's the same every time. First, determine the amount. What does this Gator actually cost? Use last year as your baseline, then adjust up or down based on life changes. Be honest. Round up if you're not sure. An extra $20 saved is a lot less painful than $20 shortfall. Second, count your paychecks. How many paychecks do you have between now and when the Gator needs to be fed? Pull up your calendar, count them out, and write that number down. Third, divide it out. Goal amount divided by remaining paychecks. That's your per paycheck contribution. That's it. That's the math. Then, lastly, automate it. Build it into your paycheck spending plan so that contribution happens automatically every period. Set up that direct deposit. Do that automatic transfer. Don't rely on willpower. Willpower is busy. Automation, it doesn't forget. And here's the thing. If you set a new Gator up right now for Christmas, you might have 10 or 11 paychecks to work with. That $900 holiday goal divided by 10 paychecks, $90 per paycheck. That is genuinely doable for most families. That same goal set up in October with just 3 paychecks left, $300 a paycheck. Same Gator, very different bite. If you're building out the full Gator list and running these calculations on 6 or 8 different expenses, and it feels like a lot to manage in a spreadsheet, well, it is. The Triggator web app lets you set up each alligator expense with the goal amount and due date, and it automatically calculates your per paycheck contribution. It tracks your progress, and it recalculates on the fly if your circumstances change. All your Gators, all in one place, all doing the math for you. There's a free 7-day trial at Triggator.com with no card required. You've got your current Gators audited. You've got your new ones mapped out. You know what's coming and what it's going to cost. There's one thing left, and honestly, it might be the most important part of today, because knowing what to do and actually doing it are two different things. Let's talk about what gets in the way and how to make sure this time it doesn't. You have done the hard part today. You ran the numbers. You looked through what's coming. You made the list. And if you're anything like most people who go through this process, there's a small voice somewhere in the back of your mind that's already negotiating. I'll start this next paycheck. Things are pretty tight right now. Maybe after the summer settles down. Does that sound familiar? Here's the truth. There's never a perfect time to start, but there is always a right time, and it is now. When you go back to your paycheck spending plan and start shifting numbers around to fund your gators, it can feel a little uncomfortable, like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. But that's not what's happening. What's actually happening is you're making a conscious, intentional choice about where your money goes before it disappears on its own. That's the whole game. We don't save with what's left after spending. We save first, and then we spend on what's left. When you move money towards your alligator fund, you're not losing flexibility. You're buying peace of mind for the future you. And future you is going to be really, genuinely grateful. Reallocation isn't a sign that something went wrong. It's a sign that you're paying attention. That's the plan working exactly the way it's supposed to. According to a 2022 study published in the Journal of Financial Planning, people who engage in even basic forward-looking financial planning, simply identifying future expenses and setting aside any amount towards them, reported significant lower financial stress than those who didn't, regardless of the income level. Not perfect planning, not maxed out savings, just the act of looking ahead and doing something. There's a verse in James 1:22 that has always stuck with me. Be ye doers of the word and not hearers only. Today you heard the plan. You understood the math. You saw exactly what needs to happen. Now comes the part that actually changes things, the doing. You don't have to get every gator perfectly funded today. You just have to take one step, adjust one contribution, set up one new fund. Making one small move in the right direction, that's enough. And once you start, the momentum builds faster than you'd expect. Now, I know that I've used this one before, and I make no apologies about it because some things are worth saying twice, 3 times, or many times. In The Empire Strikes Back, Luke Skywalker is standing in the swamp on Dagobah, staring at his sunken X-Wing, telling Yoda that he'll try to lift it with the Force. And Yoda, all 900 years and 2 feet of him, looks up and says, "Do or do not. There is no try." The reason I keep coming back to this one is because it's not just a great movie moment. It's the truest thing I know about personal finance. The audit we just did together, that's the hearing. What you do in the next 24 hours, that's the doing. And the doing is the only part that actually changes anything. So yes, we're back in that swamp. And yes, Master Yoda has a word for you. Do or do not. There is no try. The knowing isn't enough. The doing is where it happens. And that's exactly where we're headed right now. Let's close this out with a challenge and everything you need to walk away and take action today. Here's what you did today. You didn't just listen to a personal finance episode. You ran a real audit. You looked your alligators in the eye. You ran the numbers and you figured out exactly which ones are fed and which ones need a little more attention. You walked through the second half of 2026 with clear eyes, remembered what last year actually cost, and adjusted for the ways your life has changed. And then you were reminded twice, once by James and once by a very small, very wise Jedi Master, that knowing isn't enough and doing is where everything changes. The future you is already grateful. Present you just has to follow through. Here's your challenge for today. And I mean today, not tomorrow, not next paycheck. Open up your paycheck spending plan and run the alligator audit. Start by listing every non-monthly expense that you're saving for right now and add the new ones that surfaced today, the ones you hadn't thought about until we walked through the H2 calendar. For each one, pull your current balance, your per paycheck contribution, and your goal amount. Count your remaining paychecks. Run the formula. Compare the number to your goal. If you're on track, celebrate that. Seriously, that's real. If you're short, calculate the adjustment and make the change today, not someday. One updated number in your spending plan is all it takes to turn a future panic into a future non-event. As James 1:22 says, to be a doer, not just a hearer. You heard it today. Now go and do it. Before we close out, a few questions I'd genuinely love to hear you answer. What alligator surprised you the most when you ran your audit today? The one that was further off track than you expected? Is there an expense in the second half of 2026 that you hadn't thought of as an alligator until right now? And what's one adjustment you're making to your paycheck spending plan this week as a result of today's episode? Send me your answers. I read every one. Email me at podcast@Triggator.com or message me on X, Instagram, or Facebook at Triggator. If this episode helped you, follow the show so that you never miss an episode like this one, because Gator season is around all year, and so are we. Leave a review, especially if this episode helped you catch an underfunded gator before it had a chance to bite. Share this episode with a friend who's about to get surprised with a very predictable expense. And don't forget to follow at Triggator on Facebook, X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube for tips, encouragement, and behind-the-scenes content. If today's episode gave you the framework and you want something you can hold in your hands or at least read on your cell phone, the Money Made Manageable ebook walks through exactly how to build your alligator fund, set your goals, and plug everything into your paycheck spending plan that actually works. Download it free at Triggator.com/ebook. And if running the math on 6, 8, or 10 different alligator expenses sounds like a lot to manage on your own, it is, and you don't have to. The Triggator web app tracks every gator. It shows you real-time progress towards each goal and recalculates your per paycheck contribution automatically if you fall behind or adjust your goal. Your entire alligator fund, organized and managed all in one place. Start your 7-day free trial at Triggator.com with no card required. Next time, we're talking about something that feels like a lifeline at checkout, but it has a way of quietly becoming a weight that you didn't sign up for. Buy now, pay later services like Affirm or Klarna are everywhere, and they're designed to feel frictionless and free. We're going to pull back the curtain on how they actually work, who they're built to serve, and how to use your paycheck spending plan as a filter that keeps impulse-driven microdebt from silently stacking up. You're not going to want to miss it. You've made it to the end of Gator season, the mid-year money check-in you didn't know you needed. And that means something. It means you chose to look ahead instead of hoping for the best. You ran the numbers, faced the gaps, and decided to act. That's no small thing. That's exactly what financial confidence is built from, one paycheck at a time. The Gators aren't going anywhere, but neither are you. You've got the plan. You've got the tools. And now you've got the receipts. Go feed your alligators. Thanks for listening to Master Your Money, Budgeting, Saving, and Debt-Free Living. I'm your host, Nate Tanner. See you next time.